going to talk about my style of photography. So I started shooting, I was a freshman in high school. I was about 15 years old. I was shooting at first with cameras that belonged to the school, 35mm cameras that you could adjust the f-stop and the shutter speed, and you could make some adjustments. So I was learning the real basics of photography. After working for a little while at the grocery store, I saved up my money and I bought myself my own camera. And I would go out and shoot pictures, and I would go into the darkroom and develop my film. So I really learned the basics. You learn by making mistakes. Sometimes the pictures came back too dark, too light, or blurry. But that's how you learn. You learn by making mistakes. And over the years, I had a few different paying jobs in photography. At one point, when my kids were real young, I was working at a 1-hour photo lab. Those are all gone, there aren't anymore, but it was a little shop. People would come walking in, they'd drop off their film, they'd come back an hour later and they would pick it up. So we would run their rolls of film through the machine to process into negatives and then put them through the other machine to make the prints. And one day I learned something very interesting and important. A guy came in, this was in a rich neighborhood, he had a fancy camera, he had a Leica, very nice camera. That camera was worth possibly $2,000, the lens on it was maybe another $2,000, a lot of money. That probably was more than the car I was driving at that time. However, when the guy came in, he had this kind of arrogant attitude about, oh, I wonder what kind of pictures I got on my Leica camera. And he, I think, was under the opinion that if you got an expensive camera and a fancy lens and you spend all that money on a fancy equipment, you are guaranteed to get some really good pictures. But what was on it? How was it? It wasn't that great. His pictures weren't that great. So I learned a lesson. I said, you know, even if you got a super fancy camera, you spend all thousands of dollars on it, that doesn't guarantee you're going to get good pictures. So the takeaway from this is, even if you got kind of a crappy camera, and even if you got kind of a crappy lens, if you know the rules of photography, if you know the rules of composition, if you really know your equipment, if you have a good eye for creativity of what's a neat picture, and you know how to go out and do it, you don't need all that fancy equipment. You don't need the latest thing. Some people are slaves to it. They're always watching, oh, when's Nikon coming out with the new camera? Or what's the newest lens that Canon's putting on the market? I gotta have it. And then I'm gonna be guaranteed to have the most fabulous photography. Not so. It's not so. So, you know, of course I do like to have nice equipment, and sometimes I do buy new things, but I'm not deluding myself that by having this amazing camera and this amazing lens or this doodad or gadget or attachment on the front or the back or the side or the top of my camera, everything's going to come out great. It's not that way. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the important part is to not delude yourself to thinking that the great equipment is going to make a great photo. So the other thing is the eye. It's in the eye, it's in your brain, your creative brain. So sometimes I'm walking down the street and I say, oh, look at that. Hey, look at that. There's a flower growing out of the cracks in the sidewalk. There's a crack in the sidewalk and this little flower coming up. Wow, that's a photo. Stop. Go over there, take out the camera, click, 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 click from the top, the side, the bottom, right, left, high, low. Zoom out, zoom in, shoot it every way. And I call that, I didn't make this up, but I call that shoot it till it's dead. You shoot it every way it is. And sometimes you get an amazing photo of just something simple. It's a crack in the sidewalk and one purple flower poking out of there. So if you have that eye, that creative eye, then you can come up with great photos. Also, I'm looking for textures. I'm looking for interesting textures. And sometimes you see something and say, oh, that would be great in black and white. So, you know, and also the framing. Okay, you're thinking like this, all right, is this going to be a horizontal or is this one going to be a vertical? So your brain is part of the camera. The camera just sitting there on the shelf, it's not going to take any pictures. The camera sitting in the bag, that's not going to take any pictures. So the camera and you with your creative mind, that's a good combination that's going to come up with some great photography. So that's just a little bit on the attitude or opinion or theology or attitude or my idea about photography. And I love photography.